All right. What's happening? What's up, everybody? Thursday night, week number 8. You are here with a Dash of DFS. This is episode number 9. We're already halfway through the NFL season, or almost. We're walking that line. We are getting pretty close. I'm your host, Coach Sheps, at Coach Sheps on the Twitter. And with me, my guy, Joe Arachi, at 2 Tickets to Fantasy, two Tickets Fantasy, and at Drop the Leash, JC. Joe, how we doing this evening?
Ready to rock, man. It's got a good one. Got a good one coming up tonight, so I'm excited about that.
Man, I don't know if I want to get too much into tonight, but I do definitely I was talking with a buddy of mine on how we're going to bet tonight, and I believe it was Packers -7, and it's all the way down to it was Cardinals -7, and now it's all the way down to Cardinals -6, and I almost feel like we're being baited into taking Green Bay and the points, but Adams is out. Lazard is out. Cardinals have a top 10 run defense. Cardinals are hot. So I put money on the Cardinals, given 6. And my thought process is, if they don't win, if they don't cover, it means Aaron Rodgers and Aaron Jones had a game to remember. And you know what? If I get to watch that tonight and I lose some money because those two guys had a game to remember, so be it. But it's not going to be a fluke thing because Rodgers and Jones are going to have to carry this team. What do you think?
Yeah, no, I agree. I was kind of fighting with myself, too, on what to do with that line. I really wish Green Bay was at full strength because this would have been like one of those measuring stick games 8 weeks in, undefeated 7-0 team going against Aaron Rodgers and his full breadth of weapons. But I do think that Arizona's going to win a close game, whether that's by 7 or whether Rodgers and Jones, like you said, keep it a little closer. They're hot, man. I mean, I know they lost J.J. Watt tonight, but my God, the weapons they have right now. And the Packers secondary has actually statistically been sneaky good this year.
With Alexander hurt, and Jair Alexander's been pretty hurt, yeah.
I know. It's crazy. But I'm not ready to bet on that secondary in a big spot yet. They're going to have to show me a little more.
What does that say about Green Bay, that the Cardinals are undefeated, have played phenomenally, and we're here with a banged up Green Bay thinking, you know what, they can still pull this one out. I haven't said that, I think they're a legit Super Bowl contender, but clearly I'm thinking it. If I am thinking that tonight without Adams and Lazard, Green Bay still has a shot, then that tells me my gut instincts believe that, Green Bay can do it. You know what I mean? Right? I mean,
I like that deep dive. And you're kind of right. And I'll tell you the difference. I think it's Aaron Jones and even Dylan a little bit, but I think the fact that the Packers, and if they win tonight, it's going to be because Rodgers has a game to remember. Like you said.
Right.
But the fact that they have introduced that balance to their offense over the last couple of years with Jones, it makes you feel like Rodgers can go off certainly, but he doesn't necessarily have to do it on his own because they could control the ball and they could get 30 carries between Dylan and Jones if they, ball control, keep Kyler off the field. So I could absolutely see them trying to do it. I get the NFC is so weird in general, but how can you bet against Aaron Rodgers as far as at least saying they have a chance? They're alive until they're dead. I'm not saying they're going to win a Super Bowl this year, but to your point, you can't count Rodgers out until there's no time left on the clock.
Man, I want to give a shout out to my man, Mike D, Dirty Jobs at Dirty Jobs 21. He's in the middle of an electrical situation right now. There are some storms down there in Florida. We hope he stays safe. The wires are flickering. There's, just all sorts of electrical hazards, and he's in the middle of it. He couldn't make it. But we're thinking about you, man. And thanks for picking it up last week. I wasn't here. You and him, you guys held the rock.
He right off the bat, he always gives you the coach ode with his all right.
My man, that's it. All right, guys. You can follow the show on the Twitter at Toilets to Titles. Check out toiletstotitles.com. If you're on Apple Podcasts, if you're listening that way, we would appreciate a 5-star review. If you have YouTube, which everybody does, so you do have YouTube, check out the Toilets to Titles channel. Subscribe, hit the bell. Every time you go live, you will be alerted, man. And we have about 8 shows in season. I've talked about them every episode. So if you listen to the show, you've listened to other shows. So we got tons of content. Sunday mornings, Mike D, who's not here tonight, he'll be there Sunday with the Blitz. They go live at about 10:30. They answer all listener questions. If you're in the YouTube stream, any questions, they answer them right there. And that is just Perfect. Perfect for anybody who's trying to make those last-minute decisions. All right. Now, quickly, we got a Thursday night football game coming up, man. Who are the players that you have to put into your lineup?
So I see where you're going with it. So I'm going to take a different approach. So the Packers are struggling, obviously, with injuries. No Lazard, no Adams. I'll tell you what, Randall Cobb is cheap. Randall Cobb is going to get a lot of targets. Randall Cobb's not going to have 200 yards receiving, but he could certainly go 6 for 70 with a touchdown. And for the price of the full slate, I think that's worth it. And then Tonyan, who started off a little slow this year, had a nice game last week, got the looks, got the catches. Obviously, he's going to be getting a lot of targets. And then the last thing I will say, if you're looking at just for the single game tonight, I would not do this full week, but just for the single game tonight, Mercedes Lewis is $1,000 on FanDuel. Wow. And he had 3 targets last week. He's going to get some red zone targets tonight again. So, a quick 10 points for $1,000, you can't beat that.
Man, so my plays tonight, Zach Ertz, just because he's a stud. And tight ends are hard to come by. He's not too expensive. So I'm putting Zach Ertz in my lineup. I also like Rondelle Moore. Rondelle Moore is like he's kind of been – he had a few big weeks, and then he's kind of gone quiet, and I think he's due. So the last time I had a gut feeling, it didn't pan out. I forget who the player was. But this week I got another gut feeling. So you can ride with me. You don't have to, but I'm putting some money, and he's cheap. Cheap play. I'm putting Rondelle Moore into my lineup tonight, and I'm hoping he goes for like 3 receptions, 110 yards, and 2 huge touchdowns. That's good enough for me, man. Let's go. Rondelle Moore. All right, everybody. We got a new Patreon member this week. Dustin, we appreciate you. Patreon.com/titles. I think once we get 5 more Patreon members, I'm going to be giving away a free LaVisca Chenault jersey. It's ready to go. Tier 1 is $3 a month. Get you a chance to win that jersey. Supports the show, and also gets you into our group chat on Discord, which now, as we're starting to grow, it's actually getting pretty interesting. We got a lot of minds in there. So we got all the Patreon members in there, and then we got all the members of Toilets to Titles, and we're all in there chatting, talking fantasy trades, lineup stuff throughout the week, 24/7. That's only $3 a month. $5 a month is tier 2, get you early access to the waiver wire episodes, get you into that chat, and get you into Frankenstank next year. And then tier 3 is $10 a month, get you all that stuff. The Frankenstank entry is free for next year, and also get you one-on-one roster analysis from anybody at Toilets to Titles. So let's move on to You Shall Not Pass. I'm going to slam the staff down for Mike D. He's got 2 quarterbacks that he's fading. I'll read off the first one, and then Joe, you could take the second one. His first quarterback fade of the week is Matt Ryan versus Carolina for 7,200. Ryan has been on fire the past few weeks, but it's worth noting he's also been facing bottom 20 defenses. This week versus Carolina, he should come back to earth, man. Being a Matt Ryan owner in regular fantasy and in Dynasty, over the last 2 years, I can't trust him. I do not trust him. I made a huge trade. I basically sold the farm to get Josh Allen so I got Mahomes and Josh Allen on one of my rosters. I picked up Mahomes last year, and I thought Mahomes, Matt Ryan, I'd be set. This year I drafted Zach Wilson. I got Mahomes, Matt Ryan, Zach Wilson. I thought I'd be set. No way. Sold the farm. I can't trust Matt Ryan. I'm with you. Fade him for the week. Who's his next play?
So the other one, Carson Wentz, 7,200 against Tennessee. Wentz has also been coming on as of late, but this week he finds himself against the Tennessee defense who held him to under 200 yards with no touchdowns just a few weeks ago. And it's really interesting. There seems to be a lot of buzz with Carson Wentz all of a sudden. Even in my circles, talking to my buddies, I've got a lot of friends who really like him this week, and then some buddies who don't like him for the same reasons that Mike is talking about. So, Wentz has always been kind of hard to figure out, whether it's Philadelphia or now Indianapolis. I think that's still the case. I'm not so concerned with Tennessee's defense because I think what they did against Kansas City last week was kind of a flash in the pan defensively anyway. But Wentz is a flip of a coin. So, I mean, you don't know what Carson Wentz you're going to get. Nobody knows what Carson Wentz you're ever going to get from one Sunday to another. Right.
Now, Jeff is in here asking on my Zach Ertz play earlier. Jeff Mackey said, Zach Ertz already back as a top fantasy tight end now that he's on Arizona. Well, I'm going to tell you this, Jeff. I was on our waiver wire episode that we do weekly, like week 3, I was all over Max Williams because in that offense, Max Williams, nobody, he was getting like 6-7 targets because nobody could pay attention to him. And now he's hurt. And who steps in? Zach Ertz. And Zach Ertz is much better. Like, Zach Ertz is a good tight end. He's not elite anymore. He's not young, but he's almost like Jason Witten at like the third step of his career. Say there was fourth step, he was washed. He's at the third, and he was still good because he's in the right spot. He's got good hands. He's got a great quarterback, and he's got weapons around him. So, hell yeah. And also, in daily, he's a cheap option, and he's a safe option. That, to me, that's lineup worthy, and then in regular fantasy, like that's lineup worthy as well, man. So hopefully him moving also helps Dallas Goedert, because I've been waiting for the Goedert breakout for a long time, man. For a long time. All right, Chicken Noodle Soup. That's a very interesting name. We got Chicken Noodle Soup in the chat. He wants to know Aaron Jones or James Robinson this week, PPR. The Cardinals defense is top 10. They are. Now, excuse me. I think I'm going Aaron Jones. I feel like, the
it's
Cardinals,
a good team. If this, week 8 with buys and injuries, if you got to sit one of those guys, you're doing pretty well.
True. Who's your flex? Let's hear what your flex is. Maybe there's somebody else we could be sitting for one of these two guys. Yeah. But I'm kind of going with Aaron Jones. Mike's in here saying Jones by a ton, but both if possible.
I don't say by a ton there. James Robinson's been pretty hot, but I'm with you. You have a healthy Aaron Jones with no Devonta Adams. The opportunity is certainly going to be there tonight.
He's flex. He's in an 8-man league. Okay.
There it is. There it is.
That got you. All right. So now here is another thing. Jeff is saying there has never been a better time ever to attempt a trade for Mahomes. You have to think we've seen the worst of him from a fantasy perspective. Sorry, my camera's glitching right now. I don't know what that's all about. But you can still hear me, correct?
Absolutely, yeah. We still.
All right, cool. All right, so I agree. Now is a good time to trade for Mahomes, but people who have Mahomes are probably banking on him unless they're out of it. If they're out of contention and you're trying to go win a ship, I would definitely consider, paying up and going up to get him. All right, so now speaking of paying up, I'm going to move on to the guys that we are paying up for. All right, well, rather, guy that I'm paying up for, and it's Dalvin Cook this week, man. Dalvin Cook is playing against Dallas. He's at 8,000. He's been a little banged up this season, but I expect him to be as fresh as he can be this week with the Vikings coming off of a bye. Cook has always played the Cowboys well. I expect big numbers on the ground and through the air. All right. So who are the guys you're paying up for this week?
Yeah. My number one is Chris Godwin against the Saints, 7,200 on FanDuel. Doesn't look like Antonio Brown's going to play again this week. Godwin went for 8 and 110 last week. Then the other thing I was reading about, and I won't lie, didn't know this before I read it. Lattimore and that Saints secondary has historically been pretty good against Mike Evans. So feeling like that's going to lead to double-digit touches for Godwin. And then just real quick, Josh Allen seems to be back to his 2020 fantasy ways. Home against Miami, 8,900. A lot of the other big quarterbacks aren't in that 1 p.m. slate. So if you're looking at the main Sunday slate, I'm paying up for Josh Allen. He looks to be on fire again like he was last year.
Hell yeah. All right, now we have he has Dalvin and Kamara, chicken noodle soup. So he's doing really well. Dalvin Cook is going to eat. Josie Jenkins, he plays DFS. He'd say Jones since Adam and Lazard are out. And he also got Chicken Noodle Soup also has Calvin Ridley, man. He's freaking this guy's roster is loaded. All right, Mike, the guys that Mike is paying up for. Okay. First, Joe Burrow at the New York Jets. He loves him there at 7,800. Jamar Chase at the New York Jets. So he's stacking. We got a Cincinnati Bengals stack. His stack of the week featuring two guys that have been just destroying defensive game plans, and they just keep seeming to get better. This team is a deep contender, and the Jets surely will be a mere speed bump on the road to the playoffs. The Bengals are for real, and his final pay up this week is Cooper Kupp. Cooper Kupp, I feel like, is the Dash of DFS MVP. We should send him something because we probably talked about him more so than anybody, and this cat just keeps producing. He has been on a mission this year, and Houston will not be the ones to deter that. He cannot afford to pay up for – I cannot afford to not pay up for him. That's what he's saying. So he's got the money. Pay up, find a way. Cooper Kupp, 9,200, and that's on FanDuel. Riding the wave. Players are on a hot streak that I'm going to be riding until they cool off. Mine is Matthew Stafford at Houston, 7,600. Stafford has thrown for 7 touchdowns over his last 2 outings and is the top scoring fantasy football quarterback over that time span. Climb aboard your surfboard, set him into your lineup, ride the wave into a top quarterback performance for the week. So, Joe, who's your bounce back player of the week?
So, real quick, I've been doing fantasy a long time, as you have. When is the last season anybody felt good about a Cincinnati Bengal fantasy lineup stack?
Yeah.
But that is where we are in 2021. And it's a great, Burrow's been awesome, and obviously Chase, but that made me laugh to think of a Cincinnati. Usually that's the team people used to just fully stay away from.
Yeah.
All
just Corey Dillon.
Guys.
Just get Corey Dillon.
And then just AJ Green for a few years, and that's it. But what are we bouncing back now? Is that where we are here?
Bounce back player of the week.
So, I've got 2. First one, Darrell Henderson. I believe he was stuck in single digits last week against Detroit, which is bizarro based on the way the Rams scored in that game. But at Houston, 7,700. He had 4 straight games of 14 plus FanDuel points before he came back down to earth last week. He went 15 for 45. But I think this week against Houston, they're going to be running the ball in the second half. It's not going to be a very close game. I like Darrell Henderson. And then one other one, the Chiefs offense. You can offer me a trade for Patrick Mahomes in my league, and I'll trade you Patrick Mahomes. But if you think you're getting a discount because of these last few weeks, that ain't happening. And I can tell you, after being embarrassed the way they were last week, home Monday night against the New York Giants, I think Mahomes and Kelsey and Hill are going to come out, and they're going to have a point to prove and a point to make. And I think they're going to make that point Monday night to my Giants' expense. So Darrell Henderson or anybody on the Chiefs offense.
All right, let's go. All right, my bounce back player of the week, Courtland Sutton versus the Washington football team at 6,400. Sutton had a quiet outing last week, barely topping 10 PPR points. This week will face a Washington football team secondary that cannot defend the pass. They're 31st in the NFL. With Judy back, with Fant playing at his best since he entered the league, Sutton should get less attention from the defense, and he should be able to get open quite often in this one. And next, Mike D has Justin Herbert as his bounce back player of the week. Somehow or another, Baltimore made these guys look like a college team that couldn't move the ball. New England is no slouch either, but Herbert usually brings it versus a tougher opponent, and we'll be looking to get things back on track. Add in Williams, Eckler, and Allen as well. So you went with the Chiefs offense. He's going with the Chargers offense. So there's a lot of players you can put in your lineups, all right? And just load them with Chiefs and Chargers. All right, diamonds in the rough, Joe. Who are the diamonds in the rough for this week? Low ownership plays.
I'm excited. this week because we got a real diamond in the rough this week. Dawson Knox out for Buffalo, which is unfortunate because the guy's having a phenomenal year at tight end for them. Lots of touchdowns. His backup, one man's injury is another man's opportunity. And Tommy Sweeney from the Buffalo Bills, tight end, $4,300 on FanDuel. Finally, Tommy Sweeney has come back to our fantasy lineup, probably for the first time ever, and maybe the last time. But I will say this: he does have a touchdown this year. He's got a couple targets, and they have not been shy all week and pretty much saying, "Hey, we're going to slate Tommy Sweeney into Knox's spot. He's got some athleticism, and he's going to get some targets." So that offense is clicking. Home against Miami, that's a right matchup for points. Tommy Sweeney gets us 3 for 45 and a TD. We're feeling pretty good about that at 4,300. And then I will say real quick, my second would be Khalif Raymond, just to give kind of a main position and not just cop out with a tight end. Khalif Raymond, Detroit wideout, 5,700 home against Philly. Raymond's got 15 targets for 152 yards the past 2 games. That Philly defense sucks. So I expect that game to have a lot of points in it. And I wouldn't be shocked if Khalif Raymond breaks a couple plays and has a decent stat line.
All right, I can't pull up DraftKings, but Josie Jenkinson is asking, who's your favorite captain tonight on DK Showdown? For some reason,
that's tough.
Mine is being. Do you have it pulled up?
I've got, and I was just looking at that actually before. So the funny thing about the captain spot for that one game tonight in DraftKings, because of the Packer wide receiver situation, you're adding Packer wideouts. I mean, Randall Cobb's only 3,600, and then you've got St. Brown, who I believe is slotting next to him to start, is only 600. So what I'm trying to say is I just slotted Kyler Murray in because, to be completely honest, I couldn't figure out who I really felt like putting in there. But you can spend the 18 grand on Murray, and if you're making it up with one of those Packer wideouts, you can kind of still field the same lineup you were going to try to field.
How much
regardless.
is Rondelle Moore?
Rondelle Moore is 40 in the regular spot. He's 4,800. So I believe that makes him 7,200 in the captain spot.
Well, I'm saying, so if you put Kyler in the captain spot, I'm sure Rondelle Moore is cheap. What about Equanimous St. Brown? How much is he?
600. That's what I'm saying. 600. Yeah. That's all. So, I've got two lineups: Murray, Cobb, Connor, Hopkins, Jones, and Mercedes Lewis. And then I went Murray, the Cardinals defense, Cobb, Jones, Aaron Rodgers, and Tonyan. And, totally just spitfire in here. But it's a great question because it was a struggle to figure out who you wanted in there. But because you're going to get some cheap plays, you can kind of get a little greedy and take one of the more expensive guys and feel like it doesn't completely strap you down with the rest of your roster.
All right, now Chicken Noodle Soup is asking, do you think Kamara will be a bust this week going against Tampa Bay? It's very good defense. Well, I thought that Khalil Herbert was going to be a bust last week, and he balled out. I was very surprised.
And that was a pure 100 yards on the ground for Herbert, too. So
I'm definitely, if I'm like you and I'm in an 8-man league and I got all these guys to play, I'll start the other guys. But if I'm somebody playing in a 12 or 14 and I don't have better options, I got to roll with Kamara. But I'm definitely, I'm nervous.
The one thing I'm thinking about for that is when Tampa played Miami a couple of weeks ago, and only because this completely screwed me, as this guy has screwed me all year, Myles Gaskin actually had a good game. And I believe he had 2 receiving touchdowns out of the backfield in that game, mostly trash time. So that's making me feel like, in the way that Winston had to check down to Kamara Monday night against the Seattle, if you're in a PPR, I feel like Kamara's slated to get like the 10 catches for 52 yards.
Yeah,
he's gonna get pummeled, but
I could just see that, like, this is a little bit of a bigger matchup for I think the Buccaneers. This is a division game, so I could see them being up for this one, and I could see them putting Devin White on Kamara in a lot of situations. And Devin White can run with Kamara, like he can, and I just see them playing up. I think they're really going to give it to. I think they're going to fight with New Orleans, and I'm not saying New Orleans isn't going to fight back, because we know that Marlon Humphrey likes to go at Mike Evans, man. And I just think this one, I'm nervous.
You play James Robinson over him?
Over Kamara?
Yeah.
Man, I don't know. Did I read my non-quarterback fades of the week?
No.
I didn't. Well, speak of the devil, this is very important because those are 2 names right there. My non-quarterback fade of the week. It's Alvin Kamara versus Tampa Bay at 8,700. I must have skipped over it. I apologize.
I didn't know if you did it on purpose or not, so I didn't want to.
Alvin Kamara is hot, and the Tampa Bay rushing defense actually looked human last week against Khalil Herbert. The bait is set. I'm not taking it. At 8,700, Alvin Kamara is the second most expensive running back on DraftKings. The juice is not worth the squeeze in this one, so there you have it, man. I'm not. So I stayed true to form. I'm not comfortable with it. And my second non-quarterback fade of the week is Mike Evans. I was glancing through Mike Evans and Marshawn Lattimore tweets. So I was on Twitter, seeing if I could find some stats, because I tried Googling, their matchups. I didn't really find nothing, but right away on Twitter, I found something. All right, because I'm looking forward to this matchup. I think this is going to be a tough one. Per Kevin Patra of NFL.com, in 13 games versus the Saints, Evans averages 51.4 yards per game. Against all other opponents, he's earning 30 more yards. He has 81.7 yards per game against all other opponents. So Marshawn Lattimore holds him, to his lowest by like a significant margin. So I'm fading Kamara versus Tampa. I'm fading Evans at New Orleans.
If you add the fact that Evans went for 3 TDs last week too, and the Mike Evans way is always the big game, little game, big game, little game.
Kind of like Amari Cooper.
Yeah, exactly. You're absolutely right.
Yeah, and Chicken Noodle Soup's in here saying, it's just funny saying that every time. I should just say CNS. Kamara, we need a Chicken Noodle Soup. Join our Patreon, patreon.com/toilets and titles. We need some Chicken Noodle Soup action in our Discord chat, man. I'd like to see you in there. So he's saying Kamara's crazy good. Yes, he's crazy good.
Yes.
Devin White's crazy good. So, I mean, he might have a game, but he's the second highest cost for a running back in DFS. you know?
Yeah, I agree with that. And don't get like, it's so what have you done for me lately? And I know everybody's thinking about what Kamara just did on Monday night, but it's different team, different game plan. It's intoxicating to see that, but proceed with caution, as coach is saying.
All right, Blue Crew's asking Elijah Mitchell or Chase Edmonds this week. I'm going with Elijah Mitchell. Who are you riding with?
No, I'm with you on Mitchell. Connor's going to take the touchdown from Edmonds, and Mitchell looked pretty good last week in his first game back.
Yeah, I think he's the running back there. They're facing Chicago. I think it's going to be an ugly game. We're going to see a lot of Herbert. We're going to see a lot of Mitchell. And I think this game's going to be won on the ground. I really do. I don't think 49ers are going to be able to throw much on the Bears. I don't think the Bears are going to be able to throw much on the Niners. This is going to be a ground game. I wouldn't be surprised if Mitchell and Herbert both have, pretty big performances. So I'm going with that there. And could you pin the Patreon chat? I'm going to just type it in here. What does that mean? To pin it. Oh, I put 2 T's in that titles. That's not what it is. It's patreon.com/ it's a great radio for those listening at home, driving around. All right. The next question. There was another question in there. Never base who you're starting this week on last week. I like it, Jeff. I like that. Waddle or Woods? I'm going, man, that's tough. Let me pull up.
Waddle's really hot, and he's getting a lot of targets.
Didn't he have 11 targets last week?
Yeah. Not a lot of yards, but the targets
and they're
really
facing the Bills, so it could go 2 ways. They could somehow stay in this game, and that means they're going to have to score points. So that's a play for Waddle. On the other hand, they could get blown out, and then they got garbage time, and that's still a play for Waddle.
Yeah.
So I like Stafford better, but Waddle is kind of hot, and he's the best option there. I think I'm going with Waddle. He's a solid flex play for the week. We're both going with him.
Yeah, I will say this, though, to whoever's asking that when they're battling with themselves on Sunday, I would have a hard time pulling the trigger and going Waddle over Woods because Woods has just been around for so long and he gets but I do believe Waddle's got more upside this week.
Yeah. All right, should we get into our lineups, man? I'm loving these questions. It's nice to have viewers in here. It really is. It makes the episode that much more fun. Like when we're in here, I love being with you, Joe. I love when Mike's in here too, but having some interaction. So I appreciate everybody in here this evening. I really do. It's made this, one of the better episodes of the season. So
strong scenarios too. Like these haven't been easy questions this week.
Right. And Mike, I'm sorry. I said it's made this one of and Mike ain't here. It's the only episode I've recorded without Mike. It has nothing to do with you, man. It's them. It's
tough love.
It's not you. All right. The lineups we're playing. Joe, what's your FanDuel lineup of the week?
All right, here we go. We've talked about almost all these guys. So Josh Allen, 8,800 home against Miami. Jonathan Taylor, 8,500 versus Tennessee. Kamara's only $200. Taylor's 200 less than Kamara, and Taylor's got the much better matchup, just going back to the Kamara thing too. Kenneth Gainwell, 5,900 at Detroit. Sanders is out. Gainwell and Scott going to share the touches and receptions there for Philly. Khalif Raymond, 5,700 versus Philly. Again, picking on what should be a high-scoring game there in Detroit. To Mike's point earlier, Jamar Chase, 8,200 at the Jets. Expecting another big game out of him. Chris Godwin, 7,200 against the Saints for what we just talked about, all the reasons with Evans and Godwin. Good old Tommy Sweeney, 4,300. Miami Buffalo tight end filling in for Dawson Knox. To your point earlier, Coach, I got Khalil Herbert, 6,500 home against SFN for all the reasons you just said. And once again, going to continue to pick on our Jets, Jets. Cincinnati defense, 4,900 at the Jets.
Right on. For some reason, I don't know if it's my OCD, but when I'm setting my lineup, I have to have like my lowest play in the flex. So I noticed that Khalil Herbert is 6,500 and Kenneth Gainwell is 5,900.
You're right.
Man, we got to swap those two. We got to put.
I can take care of that for you.
That's how my mind works. It's the OCD in my brain. Like while I'm setting so if I'm setting lineups and I pick a wide receiver who's 6,700 and then I pick one that's 6,900, I'm like, I got to drop him out. I got to put that guy in. So it's a lot of time that doesn't need to be. It's just I'm a weird person. All right, my lineup of the week, DraftKings. I'm going with Dak Prescott at Minnesota. I'm not worried about the calf. This is going to be a fun game. There's going to be a lot of points scored in this one. 7,300. Dalvin Cook versus Dallas. So I got two guys in this game. 8,000. Cook eats versus Dallas. I said this earlier. He always has monster games. He's going to have like 6 receptions, 65 yards, probably 90 yards on the ground, probably like 2 touchdowns. Monster game. Darrell Giants versus the New York Giants. I'm sorry, Darrell Williams versus the New York Giants, 5,600. So, I mean, he might be called, maybe that just means he's going to be the New York Giants daddy this week. So he's got to have their last name. You know what I'm saying? Like there is his son. So Darrell Williams, I'm taking one of those Chiefs. You talked about it. I got to take one of those cheap play. DK Metcalf versus Jacksonville. He still managed to do okay with Geno Smith, but this is probably going to be the biggest performance Geno Smith has until Russell Wilson comes back. Like this will be his kind of his swan song until we all forget about him again when Russell Wilson comes back. So Jacksonville, 6,800. Amari Cooper at Minnesota, 6,100. Everyone's kind of, it's the CeeDee Lamb show right now. CeeDee Lamb had 2 touchdowns last year versus Minnesota. So everybody's kind of on that train. And I think Amari Cooper is going to sneak in, and I wouldn't be surprised if on the other end, it's Adam Thielen. We're expecting Lamb and Jefferson. Watch it be Amari Cooper and Adam Thielen schooling these young bucks. So Amari Cooper, 6,100. Rondelle Moore versus Green Bay, 4,000. Zach Ertz versus Green Bay, 4,400. So those are 2 guys I talked about earlier. So you knew to set them in your lineup. Boston Scott at Detroit, 4,400. So I see you guys are on Gainwell a little bit. I'm going to go with Scott. I'm going to give that a shot. And the Bills defense versus Miami, 3,300. Finally, Mike's lineup is FanDuel. Joe Burrow at the New York Jets, 7,800. Michael Carter versus Cincinnati, 5,700. J.D. McKissick at Denver, 5,400. Jamar Chase at New York Giants, 8,200. A.J. Brown at Indianapolis, 7,600. Cole Beasley versus Miami, 6,100. T.J. Hawkinson versus Philly, 6,200. Cooper Kupp at Houston, 9,200. See, that's 9,200. Can't be in the flex. You gotta put him in the wide receiver. Come on, Mike. Bears versus San Francisco, 3,700. So those are our lineups. Joe, what are your closing thoughts for this week?
It's a big week this week. The buys and the injuries are just so crazy. I think this is a week we were talking about, start 'em, sit 'em. This is the week to be bold. And I'm not one to do it, but you were talking about it in a couple of these scenarios. This is the week to be bold and really get the most out of your lineups.
Hell yeah. Everybody, again, we've really enjoyed you all being here. Check out the show on the Twitter at Toilets to Titles. You can find all of us there. There's about 13 team members. toiletstotitles.com. We got our dudes and duds, our starts and sits, or even all of our DFS plays are going to be in article form, so you can go back and look at them this weekend. All of our episodes. Go to YouTube. We would really appreciate if you subscribe, if you like, if you comment. All of the interaction helps us. If we are helping you, it would be greatly appreciated. You turn it around just by throwing us some likes, throwing us some comments. I really hope everybody has good luck this week. Go win those matchups unless you're playing against me. If you're playing against me, you know what I'm saying? But we're not, most of us aren't in any dynasty or redraft leagues together. So let's all get some bankroll this week. Let's all win some money. Let's have a good week. And hopefully this Green Bay Packers Arizona Cardinals game is a good one, but hopefully the Cardinals cover.
And real quick, chicken noodle soup. Last thing, who is going to score the most points other than a quarterback tonight? And I'm going to say Aaron Jones.
Rondelle Moore. I'm sticking with it.
Man.
That's it. All right, everybody. We'll catch you later. Thanks for joining us. We'll